Activision Blizzard admit Overwatch 2 is declining. Overwatch Esports is dying.
Overwatch, man. The fanfare surrounding this series is just not what it once used to be, especially with how poorly Overwatch 2 was handled. First of all, the justification for the number 2 is just not there. When they shut down 1 and replaced it with 2, they added some new maps, a hero or two, but,
Yeah, Overwatch 2 isn't really Overwatch 2. It's just Overwatch 1 with a mask on top of it. You hardly changed anything. That is the one of the worst, if not the worst, sequels to a game I've ever seen. And worse, even when the PvE got canceled, it's even more so just Overwatch 1 with like a patch.
there wasn't really enough of a big leap forward for Overwatch 2 to feel like a proper sequel. It felt more
No.
like a major update to 1.
Yeah.
And a lot of changes, got mixed reception from fans. The content additions didn't feel
Yeah, it did not need the number 2 behind it. You could have just called it Overwatch 1.1, 1.2.
meaningful enough. The monetization changes were not well received, while Overwatch 2 is free to play. It doesn't change the fact that the game is just less rewarding because so much stuff is paywalled or behind some kind of battle pass system that's very grindy, and it's just nowhere near the more rewarding system of Overwatch 1, which, yes, did feature loot boxes, but at least the way the reward structure and monetization structure was set up did allow people to get consistent rewards throughout the course of their gameplay experience.
Yep.
And with how much worse that's gone, it's just literally less fulfilling to grind out Overwatch 2. And then more recently, what was going to justify the 2 in Overwatch 2, the PvE stuff, got a significant downgrade. While story missions are still a thing, hero missions were cut completely. It was this mode where there was going to be tons of missions that you could tackle with heroes that were going to be customizable with skill trees and everything that would allow you to change up how the heroes play.
Yeah, it was supposed to kind of be like Borderlands, but just Overwatch. Like, just take a bunch of skill trees, a bunch of characters, and give them all these like things to make their character like give them like a unique play style, essentially.
With all that being cut, a lot of people feel disappointed, and it makes the 2 in Overwatch 2 just that much less justified. So the optics surrounding the game currently feel pretty.
Oh my god, is this the Metacritic score currently? Holy shit, dude. This is like in the tank. Always go by user score, never go by Metascore. The user score is 1.4. These are some angry dudes. Oh my god. Based off of 52 critics. Oh my god. Bro, none of these motherfuckers aim train or even play the game. Alright, that's fucking bullshit. What? Like, this is like over half of these people are playing this shit on controller, I bet. Meanwhile, you have like 3.5 thousand people saying it's dog shit.
Pretty negative, and you can see it in things like the user score here on Metacritic, where it's one of the lowest user scores right now. And not to say that the user score is an accurate representation of a game's merits, but when people en masse decide to downvote a game so much that it gets a score like that, it tends to be indication of some kind of displeasure within the community. And to further highlight the less than ideal state of the IP currently, recently, Activision Blizzard hosted a financial briefing where they shared their Q2 2023 earnings report, and the headline here from IGN speaks for itself. Overwatch 2 engagement and player investment is declining, Activision Blizzard admits. The summary of
Oh dang, they actually admitted it. Ooh, they can't hide the numbers anymore.
their financial report can be found on investor.activision.com. And here's the portion about Overwatch 2, which reads, while engagement and player investment in Overwatch 2 declined sequentially in the quarter, the Overwatch...
What? While engagement and player investment... Oh, engagement and player investment. Okay, in Overwatch 2 declined sequentially in the quarter. All right, that's probably because you are not doing you announced that the PvE thing isn't going to happen, so there's probably that.
team is looking forward to the August 10th release of Overwatch 2 Invasion.
Okay, that's just a PvE diet.
This will be the largest seasonal update yet, planned to include new PvE story missions, a new game mode, and a new hero progression system, as well as an additional hero. So Activision Blizzard...
Oh, how much did they say that all that was going to cost? Like $60 or something altogether if you want all that shit? Because what was it like? Was it like 3 or 4 missions and it was like 10 to $15 a mission or whatever? Plus, I don't know what, like, how they're gonna introduce the hero. Is it gonna be like Kiriko, where you have to like get the battle pass and complete the battle pass, or is it just you get the battle pass and then you get the hero in the front, or I don't know how it's gonna be done.
Blizzard has gone on to admit that not only are players spending less time with the game, but also players are spending less in Overwatch 2. They haven't shared exact figures, and they're probably not too keen on doing so, but generally, there is a decline in how much players are playing and how much they're spending, and that's just obviously not a good sign for what is supposed to be a long-term live service.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the bell curve thing, of like a standard bell curve. Probably like your casual tryhards and like high skill players, their playtime probably isn't going to change that much. You know, they're still logging in, playing the game just because they're so invested in the game and they're really good at the game. Those guys, like, you don't need to really worry about those guys. You really need to worry about like the center of the bell curve, essentially. Like that, what is it? Like that 40 to 60% end range. Maybe you could go a little bit more in either way and like down. It's like those guys are the ones that are most likely you're losing. You know, they see the whole monetization scheme. They're not liking it. They're not getting a lot of content. Whatever content they are getting, they have to pay out the wazoo for, and it's just they're just unhappy. And surprisingly, people are quitting. You know, usually gamers are okay with just eating dog shit, but this is like one of the rare instances that they're just like fed up with it and they're just like, okay, I'm out, bye.
Now, whether the new seasonal update will be substantial enough for people to feel the spark of playing Overwatch 2 again, especially with story missions being introduced and whatnot, and whether the new game mode will be fun and compelling enough to bring a lot of people back, all of that
probably not. Let's be honest.
Remains to be seen. I know that the story missions, last time I reported on these, they're not going to be very long, just a couple hours. Their estimates right now, based on Game Informer's report, that a story mission ran about 30 minutes, not including cutscenes, that 3 story missions that will be included as part of this season will likely take about 2 hours to beat, and that's, you know, you have to pay $15 for that. So it's not...
So $15 for 2 hours. That's like a movie in like the daytime, more or less. Like, I don't know. I haven't really been to the movies in a while. Like $15-20 for 2 hours, that's about a movie. So I guess in that sense, it's all right, I guess. But like, why would you even bother making something like that short to begin with? Like, it's not even gonna like be that impactful. Like, you could do that in like the same session that you're gonna like continue to play. Like, you're gonna play, like you're gonna get the game, you're gonna get these like little missions. You're gonna take about like what, 2 to 4 hours. All right, that's you know, maybe that's your session of the day. You know, you're gonna play the session, you're gonna play the story, you're gonna play the missions. You're going to beat it, and then you're going to be like, I still got another hour. I'll just jump into some matchmaking or whatever. It's like, it's not even like, almost not even worth a session of gaming. Why would you even bother making something so short and menial?
Not a chunky amount of content. People interested in the PvE stuff, it feels like they're going to tune in for a couple hours and then...
Bro, for $15, you could go on Steam and just get go get an indie game or something. Go put your money into like some indie developer, like Vampire Survivors or whatever, you know? And you'll get way more time like per dollar out of like indie games than this bullshit.
Then drop the game again unless the new game mode really compels people enough that it'll have players stay for the long term and it'll drive up engagement and spending. As for the general discourse online surrounding this, well, not a whole lot of people are surprised that there is a decline in player engagement and spending. You got tweets like these: who would have thought after canceling 80% of the promised game, people would lose interest in Overwatch 2? This gained quite a bit of traction. Here's another somewhat viral tweet with over 12,000 likes and almost 1 million views. Remember, Blizzard made the best multiplayer FPS game of all time and then abandoned it to make a co-op PvE game they would eventually cancel. Overwatch, the 2016 smash hit and insanely popular multiplayer game, was chosen to not be their focus. A lot of people reminiscing the Overwatch 1 days when it felt like this was just going to be a runaway hit that would continue to thrive for the long term, only to see it in the state that it is.
I mean, to be fair though, like the base gameplay in Overwatch is still like good enough, It's still crispy, it's still responsive. It's like the base gameplay is still good, but it's not good enough to retain players, at least on like a massive wide scale like audience, to a casual audience.
Which just feels like a shadow of what it once used to be. Now it's heavily monetized husk that consistently disappoints its players. No one is shocked about the declining number, so on and so forth. Now, one of the ways that Activision Blizzard seems to hope to maybe bring in more players is by releasing Overwatch 2 on Steam. Blizzard games tend to be hosted on Activision Blizzard's own launcher, Battle.net, but that's all about to change with Overwatch 2 coming to Steam on August 10th in just a few weeks.
Got to pump those numbers up, man. Those are rookie numbers. So what do we got to do? We got to release it on Steam. Bro, this isn't going to do anything. Like, if I'm just guessing. Like, the same dudes that were not playing because they have the battle launcher right there next to their Steam icon on their desktop are still not going to play the game just because you moved it from one little icon to the next icon. Like, that's ridiculous. It's like, I can't like fathom like the thought process. We just gotta give it to Valve. That'll boost the player numbers. It's like, no, it's not. I mean, it could. I could be completely wrong. And I'm not trying to shit on the game, but like, they're not gonna play on the Blizzard launcher. What makes you think they're just gonna play on the Steam launcher? I don't get it.
Weeks. The page for it is already up and running, and I'm curious to see what the user reviews will look like, but you can see right here an August 10th release date. And Blizzard explains all of this in this blog post, where they also shared that it's not necessarily just Overwatch 2 that's coming to Steam. Over time, more Blizzard games may roll out on the popular PC launcher and storefront. The timing of all of this feels interesting. Just as Activision Blizzard announced that there's been a decline in player engagement and investment, they decide to release this game on a more popular launcher and platform. It's also worth noting that this is happening around the time when Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard made significant headway when the FTC lost its court case against the acquisition. Regardless of what the thought process was behind bringing Overwatch 2 to Steam all of a sudden, I'd say that the more accessible a game is, the better, but
I mean, that is true. The more accessible a game is, the better.
Also, the game itself has to be in a good place to leverage the additional platforms that it releases on. People have to feel excited for the franchise, and currently, it just feels like the franchise is at a low point. The optics...
Yeah, definitely. The optics are dog shit for the game. You say you're, like, about to cancel the competitive scene or whatever, so it's like, what's the point of a shooter, like a multiplayer shooter, PvP shooter, if there's no like competitive scene to it? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's fine if it's just for fun or whatever, you just enjoy it. just to give like some experience. But like Blizzard always tried to tout that Overwatch, it's a competitive esports or whatever.
Surrounding its monetization, its changes, its lack of substantial additions to justify the 2 in Overwatch 2, and then the cutting of hero missions. It just feels like there's so much going against Overwatch 2, so many decisions that killed the hype and the upwards trend of Overwatch as an IP. And then to make matters worse, the state of Overwatch esports is abysmal right now. It seems as though the days of the Overwatch League are numbered. Here is something else that Activision Blizzard disclosed during their recent financial briefing. Our collaborative arrangements for our professional esports leagues continue to face headwinds, as previously disclosed. During the second quarter, we amended certain terms of our collaborative arrangements with team entities participating in the Overwatch League. According to the amended terms, following the conclusion of the current Overwatch League season, the teams will vote on an updated operating agreement. If the teams do not vote to continue under an updated operating agreement, a termination fee of $6 million will be payable to each participating team entity, total fee of approximately $114 million. As of June 30th, 2023, a termination liability has not been accrued. Total revenues from the Overwatch League comprise less than 1% of our consolidated net revenues.
I mean, honestly, I can't think. Like Overwatch, didn't they have that like $20 million a spot per team thing going on or whatever? It's like if you want to have a team in the Overwatch League, you need $20 million. It's like, what? At least from like the perspective of Apex, you can just be some regular Joe Schmoes with a team Joe Schmo and just go through the ringer with Apex. At least you don't have to have $20 million. You know, you can just, play the official tournaments and, just go through the ringer as like a nobody and, get somewhere potentially. What is this fucking $20 million spot? Like, what?
What Activision Blizzard is saying here is that the current state of Overwatch esports and esports in general is pretty rough right now, and esports just does not make a whole lot of money for Activision Blizzard, and so they're giving Overwatch League teams an out if they decide to discontinue the Overwatch League. If the votes go that way, then all teams will receive a termination fee of $6 million to essentially give them a bit of a parachute. And then further indication that Overwatch esports and esports in general is in trouble is the fact that Activision Blizzard seems to be moving away from esports in general.
So, like, how long has the OWL League been going on? Like, how many years? So, if there's like one Super Bowl, or whatever, for like Overwatch League Championship or whatever per year, was it like you have to pay, like each team has to pay $20 million to get into the league and go through the tournament or whatever, and they did that year on year, and then they're just going to do like a one-time leavers fee, like, okay, you want to leave, here, we'll pay you $6 million versus like the multiple years of $20 million just from one team. Oh my god, that is really, really hilarious.
As indicated by layoffs surrounding esports staff at Activision Blizzard. As The Verge highlights in their article, the fate of the Overwatch League after the current season is now in the hands of team owners to be voted on sometime later this year. And the speculation out there right now is that it's highly unlikely that the teams will vote to continue things, given disruptions like the COVID-19 pandemic and the financial stress that caused, given what happened in China, where Blizzard games, including Overwatch and Hearthstone, were taken offline in the country because Blizzard and its longtime Chinese publishing partner NetEase failed to negotiate a new licensing agreement. Given all this and the general cooling on esports overall, it's a safe assumption that the franchise owners will probably choose not to continue on with the league, take the $6 million payout, and summarily end the franchise era of Overwatch esports.
Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm like correct, but like if the end of Overwatch League is like Blizzard's thing, like Blizzard's take on the tournament or whatever, and this is like the only real tournament that matters or whatever, and they're ceasing that, they're stopping that, wouldn't that just leave room for like some other tournament organizer to come in, like swoop in, pick up the OWL? Well, not OWL. They can make it like whatever, like the NA Overwatch Association, whatever name you want to slap on it. Wouldn't that just leave like some room for another org to like come in and start running like a big tournament league for Overwatch? Because they're not, I don't know if they're sharing it or they're just giving it up, and like what is Overwatch just not going to be on the Blizzard launcher? I'm pretty sure it's going to be on the Blizzard launcher and Steam, you know? So someone from Steam, like, come in and start your own Overwatch league or whatever, and make it like start your own esports team again or whatever for Overwatch, and don't make it the dog shit $20 million a spot thing that Blizzard did.
Overwatch is not just any live service, it is primarily a competitive PvP hero shooter. And when its esports scene is in shambles like this, that doesn't help with the current state of the game and the decline.
So are they just gonna cease? Like, what is Overwatch gonna be like happening? Is the game still gonna like continue with like updates and shit? Like, is it just gonna be like on maintenance mode? You know, are they gonna stop doing like anti-cheats, stop doing bans, stop supporting the game, or whatever? Like, what's gonna happen?
Decline of its optics, its player engagement, and its player investment. Now, Activision Blizzard continues to insist that they're not planning to abandon Overwatch Esports. Overwatch League Commissioner Sean Miller affirmed Blizzard's commitment to Overwatch Esports, stating Overwatch remains committed to a competitive ecosystem in 2024 and beyond. We're building toward a revitalized global scene that prioritizes players and fans. He further added that I'm actually very optimistic about.
Really? Because didn't you say that like in the beginning for like Overwatch 1, we're gonna prioritize players and fans, but like when you fucking demand like a $20 million spot just for Blizzard for into your league, that doesn't seem like player driven and fan driven. It's like it's just another speed bump or a gatekeep to like enter the scene.
About the future of Overwatch esports and the competitive ecosystem. We're doing all we can to make the player experience and the fan experience one that people want to return to, want to be a part of, and get excited about to turn on. But there's a very real possibility that that optimism is fake and does not match the reality of the current situation, especially when you consider that the company's esports department suffered layoffs impacting around 50 employees, which, according to one of those affected, seems like a significant gutting of Activision Blizzard esports. The Verge spoke to a number of former employees who were laid off, and all of them are saying the same thing. Nothing about the gutting of the esports department of Activision Blizzard speaks to a company that's truly fully committed to esports for the long term. Former employees were also not pleased by the lack of communication surrounding layoffs, which came out of nowhere, despite Brad Crawford, Senior Director of Global Communications of Activision Blizzard Esports, insisting that supporting our employees through transition is our top priority. A lot of former employees report that they don't feel supported. There was no warning. Yeah. This was a complete shock to everyone, and none of us who were laid off were offered any opportunity to switch roles or teams. And
Bro, that just seems like the shadiest of bullshit. Like, he just went off saying that, like, y'all, we're committed to esports still. Then meanwhile, like, what was it, like a month or two ago or whatever, it's like, yeah, we just fired a whole esports department, but we're still committed. It's like backwards.
The fact that these layoffs happened around a time when Activision Blizzard was working to overhaul tools used to run its tournaments, with the new tools not being complete before the layoffs happened and the new tools essentially no longer being in development, that's further indication that Activision Blizzard's interest in esports is waning because the scene is just not doing well. A former employee said that our replacement tool wasn't finished.
Not gonna lie though, Overwatch, in my opinion, is just hard to watch. Like, as an audience member looking at like a regular match or whatever, it's not the easiest thing to watch, you know? Yeah, there's like the push thing where it's like just push the thing to like from point A to point B or whatever. And then you have all these like little characters like running and jumping around and trying to shoot each other with shields and cooldowns and abilities. I mean, you could kind of get into it. It's like Overwatch to me is like more complicated CS. Or, I mean, you could probably make the argument like Valorant is more or less the same thing. Like Valorant is a more complicated CS. But it's confusing is like the respawning thing to like a general audience. You know? When you kill someone, they gotta start they respawn all the way back at like their home base, and then they gotta like run all the way back to, the action or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what they could possibly do to make the viewing experience better.
So I can only speculate that Activision Blizzard is closing its esports division, and my eyes are completely unequipped to internally support anything esports after that, after the recent round of layoffs and after the halting of the development of these new tournament tools. So yeah, all this optimism coming from Activision Blizzard higher-ups about how they're committed to the long-term future of Overwatch esports, all of that contrasts and contradicts heavily with the grim picture painted by the now former employees. There was already indication over 2 months ago that Activision was waning on their commitment to esports. This is an article from May 5th, 2023, where PC Gamer reported that Activision isn't sure how long the Overwatch League and Call of Duty League will last, says efforts to address challenges surrounding esports may prove unsuccessful.
Oh man. So not only is Overwatch League in shambles, Call of Duty League is also in shambles. That is very telling. I mean, to me, I'm just like a casual dude, just like watching videos and just bullshitting. But like I haven't really spent like any significant amount of time watching like professional like Overwatch League matches, or to another degree like COD matches. Like these are just so boring for me to watch. And it's like, I know Call of Duty is primarily like controller based. Overwatch League is just, primarily M&K based. But like my eyes just hurt watching Overwatch League, and I could care less what any game with controllers does. I just don't care about it. It's like, this one's hard to watch, and I just don't care about this one. Like, Call of Duty is just, to me, Call of Duty is just overran by cheaters in like the general population. That whole Ricochet thing is dog shit. It's fake. It's stupid. And Overwatch, I don't know what kind of anti-cheat system they use or whatever. I think on Twitter, a couple like actual good like aimer bros were getting banned or whatever, or were getting reported because it looks like they were aimbotting, but they actually weren't. And I think maybe the ban set system thing, the anti-cheat system, is just 100% automated. And like whenever you like file to put in an appeal, it's like it most likely won't be seen unless you know a guy or whatever. So both of these leagues are just hilarious to me. Like they're just so bad.
One of the quotes from this SEC filing is that esports leagues continue to face headwinds which are negatively impacting the operation and potentially the longevity of the leagues under the current business model. We continue to work to address these challenges, which could result in significant costs, and such efforts may prove unsuccessful. This is on top of what was reported last month on June of 2023. A streamer invested a good chunk of money into esports with little to no return. And this streamer made a video warning people to not get into the esports business because everyone is losing a lot of money. Scrolling down, we have some choice quotes such as, if you look at any esports organization in North America, all of them are either broke or going broke. And I do mean all of them. Some organizations will try and put on a front and say, hey, we're still good, we look good, everything's cool here. Trust me when I say everyone is losing a lot of money. A lot of people are being fired. No organization is safe right now, which further reinforces the notion that Activision Blizzard's optimism surrounding the future of esports, it feels really fake compared to the grim realities of esports right now. Brands are scared of esports because they invested millions and millions into it, and they never got any significant return. Activision Blizzard itself admitted that the total revenues from the Overwatch League comprised less than 1% of our consolidated net revenues. It's just not a worthwhile financial investment for the company. Even since late last year, there was a general sense of foreboding surrounding esports, with this article from VentureBeat reporting that the esports winter is coming. Scrolling further down, it is explained that with COVID pandemic concerns winding down, live streaming views are falling from their pandemic era highs. At the same time, advertising budgets are being slashed in anticipation of a recession. This means less money coming in across the board for ad-supported businesses like esports organizations. So the Overwatch League and the Overwatch esports scene crashing right now is not just a result of Overwatch as an IP just being in a less than ideal state. It's also just the general state of esports alongside just the general economic state that we're currently in. But it certainly doesn't help that the Overwatch IP optics are at seemingly an all-time low. When an IP like Overwatch 2 is trending downwards, both on the non-esports side of things when it comes to player investment and engagement, and on the esports side of things due to a number of factors, alongside Overwatch having killed the hype for the IP so much because of the way that Blizzard and the Overwatch series has tripped over itself constantly. None of this gives confidence that Overwatch has a bright long-term future unless Blizzard makes some drastic changes in the way they approach the development of Overwatch, or unless some kind of content or feature addition feels so substantial and like such a game changer, and finally something that justifies the 2 in Overwatch 2, that it'll spark some kind of fire that hopefully will be nurtured so that Overwatch can have a bright long-term future.
So like the two fronts that I think it was talking about was like, if you're trying to like expand an esport to some degree, it's like gaming in general has gone through like an evolution where it's like increased in like leaps and bounds, like since like 10, 20 years ago. Like it's like gaming is more mainstream in general, yes, but esports is still not like as wide reaching as just gaming is, or whatever I would say. So like if you want to kind of compare it to sports, like let's take soccer, slash football in general, and use that as an example. Like everyone on the face of the planet Earth has pretty much heard of the sport soccer, or football, whatever. So boom, there's your brand recognition. Soccer, everybody knows about it. The speed bumps to play it, very low. All you need is a ball, a field, and some goals, and boom, you're playing soccer. All right. With video games, it's a first world problem type deal. You need to have a good computer. You need to have a good monitor. You need to have good internet. You have to have the best peripherals. You have to have the good mouse, the mouse pad, the keyboard, so on and so forth. And not only do you have to have all of that, you need to be good at the game. So there's like all these like speed bumps that just hinder the mass audience from being able to engage with the esport or your favorite esport game. This applies to like fighting games too. So like if you want to kind of compare it like that, it's kind of fair, because let's say you're a fan of soccer or whatever. How likely are you to go and buy merch for your favorite like soccer team or whatever? You're probably pretty like, oh, I'll go get a jersey, I'll go get a mug, I'll go get a hat, or whatever. I'll get like a handkerchief or like a water bottle of something. You could just, there's like each like soccer fan has like a dollar amount like fixed to them. It's like, okay, this person might go buy this person's merch, that person's merch, and so on and so forth. But the average fan of like an esports game has almost no dollar value attached to them, because let's say you're like an Apex fan or whatever. How likely are you going to go buy like some sort of like TSM Apex merch or whatever, or NRG Apex merch or whatever? You're probably not likely, to be honest. So there's the engagement between the fans and the esport itself. There's almost no engagement in that aspect right there. So that's one like facet of it. And yeah, let's just keep listening.
Because I don't want to see the potential of Overwatch squandered, but a lot of people would argue that that's exactly what's happening right now. Overwatch just deserves to be in a better state than it currently is in, because so many people do love it. Like, I enjoyed Overwatch once upon a time, and I've fallen out of it, but I want reasons to come back to it because I enjoy the setting, I enjoy the heroes, I enjoy the gameplay, but if the game is finding ways to be unrewarding through its monetization systems, just poorly marketing features, or just being overly ambitious with things to a point where they have to cut the thing that so many people were looking forward to for the so-called sequel, the hero missions, when Overwatch 2 and the series as a whole just keeps mishandling its execution, it's hard to stay excited for Overwatch. It's hard to not just move on to greener pastures, and I feel like that's what a lot of people are doing. We'll see if Overwatch can make some kind of major comeback or recovery with this upcoming season and future content. It is still a major IP. There's still plenty of people who tune in and play the game, but the declining trend is certainly not encouraging, and only time will tell, and Blizzard's efforts will tell what the future holds for this now troubled series. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on the current state of Overwatch 2 and the Overwatch IP. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
Oh man, good video. I like it. Yeah, Overwatch still in the dumpster as far as esports goes. I mean, hey, for lack of a better thing to say, it's like Blizzard did it to themselves. All right, with the whole $20 million spot. I don't think that helped the scene at all, or whatever. So, hey, it is what it is, man. Maybe they'll bounce back when they kick it over to Steam or whatever. So, we'll see. But yeah, another good one. That's pretty much it, guys. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.